Do you think I look a little tired today? Now, there is a valid reason as to why I look a little more dead
Piece of shit.
than usual. And we are going to train shoulders today, but I think I want to take you guys on that adventure first, because it's showtime. Part of this adventure is driving over a bridge. I don't know, I just think bridges are pretty cool. Kind of like tunnels, but instead above water. So I was actually on my way to Atlantic City because I was casted in a Halloween event that they were doing at the Borgata Hotel and Casino and Spa. On my way there, I got to see some really cool autumn atmosphere, which I obviously love. And this next thing here, I don't know what it is, but I just thought it looked cool. And as I was pulling into Atlantic City, it really made me think, you know what? Sometimes my life really is pretty freaking cool. And walking into the casino really helped me reflect on that too. We are on our way up. Got my reading for the breaks. Obviously, I couldn't get the whole of the casino because there were too many people around, but back in the event area, they had all this cool stuff set up, and it was just pretty awe-inspiring in a weird way. And obviously, I had to get the shot of me proving that I know how to read, because I know most people don't think I can. And obviously, after nearly 2 hours of driving, I was starting to feel a little groggy, so I had to step out and grab some of the bucks, if you know what I mean. And then I wanted to make myself seem like a philosopher, so I took this shot of me sipping my coffee with way too much sweetener while reading a novel. Not gonna lie, I think I pull off this hairstyle quite well, and thankfully she was here to help me look
Yeah,
pretty.
I got one of the...
And of course, we had the main event with Jack and Sally also being featured, telling you Blink-182 would lose their cool if they were here to see this. There's your homeboy. Welcome to the greatest show on earth, because it was indeed showtime. And I heard this guy had to start charging for haircuts, but in this economy, I can't blame him. Unfortunately, the night did have to come to an end because, not all good things can last forever. So I had to return home very late at night, and I was getting kind of tired, but the view on this bridge was spectacular, even though the tolls were kind of expensive. I told you golf's not a phase, Mom. Anyway, as y'all can see, that was a very fun experience. And hopefully one day I get to do it again. But what I need to do right now is get to the gym, because like I said, it is shoulder day and I need to get that training solid and in.
Is the pump.
Because I'm going to be the Jack Swole Lantern, you know what I mean? Anyway, let's get to the gym. A while ago, I made a video, and during one of those videos, I mildly discussed on how I feel comfort in things that are creepy. And when I say creepy, I mean more atmospheric stuff. The weather, the lighting, the atmosphere, if you can put it that way. And that's part of the reason why I love Halloween as much as I do. It is one of the few times of year where my love and enjoyment in finding comfort in things that are creepy is seen less as weird or outlandish by a lot of people, and more just the norm of the month. Horror movies are a lot more mainstream now, as opposed to when I was a lot younger and, loving the more creepy movies. Not even so much Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, even though I did still heavily enjoy those films because they're fun slashers. But the slower horror films of like the 1930s and 40s, the black and white classics, they had that aura to them that just really stayed with me and kind of just always brought a sense of joy that words can't really describe. And with Halloween time, those are really the types of movies that I'm actually more seeking out. Not just the fun slasher films, but those older style horror films, the 30s, 40s, and even the Hammer horror films, the classics that Hammer made are almost all of them are perfect for the whole autumn atmosphere. Recently, I watched Kiss of the Vampire, and just the setting alone is, it doesn't take place during Halloween, at least I don't think, but the setting is so autumn, so October that it is just perfect for this time of year. Again, it's just the atmosphere of the month, the atmosphere of Halloween is just so cool and comforting. My roommate picked the movies for tonight's movie night, and he wanted to watch the Scooby Doo movies. And I'm not gonna lie, the first one definitely, I think I like this even more now than when I did as a kid. And I loved watching this when I was a little kid, but just something about it, it's like surprisingly really funny. And I'm realizing that every character goes through solid character development. The casting is perfect. It has fun action scenes. You know what? I know this didn't get great reviews, but this is a very, very solid movie. And like I said, we had a double feature with the second Scooby Doo movie, and all the actors are still really good. I just thought it was weird that Seth Green stepped in as the love interest. I love Seth Green, so I'm not complaining, but it was just odd to see the other guy replaced. But Jirky decided to show up and join in on the festivities. I think she's a Scooby Doo fan. And one thing I actually do really like about this movie is seeing the collection of monsters it has, and the final surprise reveal when I was a kid actually impressed me as a kid.
So, for our end of day wrap up video, as you can see, there's a little bit of a change of scenery. I kind of want to clean it up a bit. Blank wall, Godzilla, the whole shebang. Really, that's all you need. But today, what I specifically want to talk about outside of my 5 o'clock shadow that I've been letting grow in because I clearly have not been getting enough sleep these last few days is music that gets me excited for Halloween. And it should be pretty obvious right now. I love Halloween. It's my favorite time of year. And it's not just because, oh, it's now socially acceptable to watch horror movies, because I'm going to watch horror movies throughout the year anyway. But when it comes to Halloween, it's the aura, it's the atmosphere, it's the look of everything. It's the sounds the season makes, if that makes any sense. And what I really want to discuss is, everyone talks about decorations, costumes, movies, sometimes even novels. But what I want to talk about is music that gets me interested in the Halloween season. Now, of course, here's the thing. We have the obvious bangers like This Is Halloween, The Monster Mash, Graveyard Smash, the Halloween theme, Ghostbusters theme, Thriller by Michael Jackson. Very pretty much obvious classics. And we had this stuff that we sang when we were kids, like Say Lay Halloween, which is more of a Canadian thing. I'm not Canadian, but I know that song. Have you seen The Ghost of John? There was no lady, all skin and bones. All these songs that we can connect to our youths too, that are fun to listen to during this time of year, because like I said, Halloween is all about the aura, it's about the atmosphere, and those movies do kick it in. But what I want to discuss is songs that aren't necessarily Halloween-y, but still give that aura of autumn. And one obvious one that I have to bring up, because they're my favorite band of all time, is the 69 Eyes. Now, Jerky69, he has his own solo project, and he does have a song called Last Halloween, but that's cheating a little bit, so I don't think I'm going to include that. It's a good song. I actually like his solo work. It definitely harkens back a little bit more to the original style of the 69 Eyes. A little bit more tech because it is techno-ish because it is solo, as well as his spin-off band, the 69 Cats, which is more the gothabilly music that Angels and Devils had. More, or I'd say Devils. If they kept with the style of Devils a little bit more. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The songs from the 69 Eyes, one very specific one, and this could just be for nostalgic reasons, is the song Feel Berlin. There is nothing in that song about Halloween, about autumn, at least that I could catch. But it's the way the song sounds. Again, this could be that I got the album randomly during autumn one year. I can't remember the exact year. And I would just listen to that album on repeat, and that song always stuck with me. And it might be my favorite song on the album. And that's the album that has The Lost Boys, which is my favorite movie of all time. And yes, that song very much is specifically based on the movie because they are huge fans of that movie too. They're not called the Helsinki Vampires for no reason after all. But really, Angels and Devils as a whole, for me, gives me that autumn atmosphere because I got both of those albums separate years, but I got both those albums during autumn. And I remember my parents were driving me home the one day, and they actually let me listen to the entirety of, or not the entirety of, Angels, because, you know, the entire album was like 45 minutes and the ride was like 15. But they actually let me, I said, hey, can we listen to this on the way home? And they said, you know what, sure. And that was a lot of fun too, because my dad was also very much into horror movies. He obviously wouldn't let me watch like extreme stuff, but he did let me watch Predator when I was way too young. So he did get enjoyment out of it. He didn't think it was, he didn't like the swearing in it. Obviously, he is a devout Christian man, but he didn't think that the album was overly raunchy or anything like that. So he appreciated it. And that's also what made it kind of fun, is when you have a little bit of a connection with your parents while listening to something that you're interested in. And there's other more gothy albums that the 69 Eyes have, obviously. Paris Kills, I think, is straight up one of the best albums, period, not just by them. It is a straight up 10 out of 10 album with no skips. And with that album specifically, Don't Turn Your Back on Fear, Stigmata. I almost said Brandon Lee, but that was from Blessed Be. Another great example. But with those songs, it's like if you wanted to make an autumn playlist, those would have to go on it. There's a lot of 69 Eyes songs that are like that. A lot of goth music is like that too. I mean, you know, you listen to Bauhaus, they're more post-punky goth than they are what the 69 Eyes are. You know, you got Black Number One by Typo Negative, My Girlfriend's Girlfriend. Like, that was another nostalgic one. But like I said, goth music is kind of inadvertently Halloween music in its own way, because it's like, you know, it's the slower, more creepy brother of punk music after all. And obviously when it comes to punk music and goth and Halloween, you know, you got the Misfits. A lot of their music is like inspired by horror films. They were definitely huge fans of horror. And also the spin-off band Samhain, they're more of a death rock band than a straight up punk band, but that's just another example of Halloween having influence over music. It's because Halloween's such a awesome time of year. And I know Christmas is a very special time of year too, because it's very loving and very warm, and you got all the pop songs around that, but Halloween feels like the rebellious brother of Christmas. Another band too that I really like. This one's not even that nostalgic, but it's more and it's not even the way their music sounds, it's more just the style of them. It's the band I Am Ghost. They're more of a post-hardcore, metalcore, emo band with a little bit of goth in them. This comes to knowing their overall aesthetic, their music videos and all that stuff. If you watch them, listen to them, very fast paced, but even in that, you can find hints of the autumn season in there. And I Am Ghost is honestly a genuinely underrated band. They're kind of like a more, I'd say a more emo version of Bullet for My Valentine. You know, they have the clean singing, they have the metalcore stuff in there. And if I was telling my one coworker, if you like Bullet for My Valentine, you'll probably like I Am Ghost also. It's not guaranteed, obviously, but I Am Ghost is definitely an underrated band for this time of year, and I do highly recommend them. Like I said, a lot more fast-paced, definitely, because like I said, they're post-hardcore. And it's like the screamier. It's like if you took the screamier AFI when AFI went more scene as opposed to their original punk roots and My Chemical Romance. Put the two together, you kind of got I Am Ghost a little bit, but not really. It's more the aesthetic of the two, I think. But definitely check them out because I Am Ghost, as I said, they haven't had a lot of albums. They had 2 complete full-length albums when they broke up, and before that they did have an EP, and the EP is nothing to sleep on either. The opening tracks of the EP and their first album are very haunting. They're very slow, very melodic, very dramatic. And oddly enough, they're great songs to listen to if you're actually feeling really down so that way you can just wallow in your sorrow. But we're not here to wallow in sorrow. We're here to talk about music for Halloween. And obviously, I can't leave out Rob Zombie. Obviously, you can't leave out Rob Zombie when you're talking about music that makes you feel hyped for Halloween. And again, this goes to I Am Ghost, or similar to I Am Ghost, where Rob Zombie's not a slow, creepy, atmospheric musician. He's heavy, fast-paced, hard rock, shock rock, metal. But that man loves horror, and his music basically sounds like if you were to make heavy metal soundtracks of 1930s, 40s, and 50s horror films. And I think he'd take that as a genuine compliment. And that's why I love Rob Zombie. Rob Zombie, White Zombie. White Zombie's more noise metal, but still the same thing. I mean, they did a cover of Boogeyman, and that was, like, honestly, I listened to that song so much that it's, like, some people might think it's illegal how many times I've actually listened to their cover of Boogeyman. But, you know, you got Dragula, Super Beast, these great songs. And then, here's the thing, I forget what the name of his robot is. You know, the giant one he brings out on stage. I hate that I forget its name. And the same robot that would make a cameo in El Super Beasto, that's taken from the robot in The Phantom Creeps, an old movie serial. The gentleman loves horror. He loves that era of horror. And like I said, it sounds like his music perfectly grips the sound of if you were to give 1950s horror movies a heavy metal soundtrack. That's what his music sounds like. And that's obviously intentional. Rob Zombie loves that stuff. I've seen his episode of Cribs. And outside of that, you know, you got the classic music like I Put a Spell on You by Screaming Ray Hawkins. I swear if I got his name wrong, I'm going to bang my head against the wall. And even Nia Simone's cover of it. Here's the thing. I'll say her version is the better version, but Hawkins' version is the version I'll listen to during Halloween time. Just that whole atmosphere he has there is exceptional. Oddly enough, there's not a lot of like metal bands, but I will bring up Repulsion. They're an early example of grindcore. And the reason I bring them up is because their music makes me think of when you're having one of those horror movie nights on Halloween. If like you're like, let's say you're doing the 31 horror movies in 31 days like I like to do. They're the band you listen to before you watch the ultra low budget, ultra gory slasher film that you just happen to stumble upon on Tubi, Shudder, Amazon Prime. That's Repulsion. That's the type of band that I will listen to during Halloween when I want that type of horror movie. And they are awesome, man. They literally dropped one album and bounced, and they basically invented an entire genre, and that is so freaking cool. If you haven't listened to Repulsion and you're a fan of death metal, you gotta look them up. They are one of the best out there. And like I said, they dropped one album, bounced, and created basically an entire genre, and it was outstanding. That album is another one of the examples of a 10 out of 10. It could be that I love heavy metal and love different heavy metal subgenres, that I'm biased inherently with that, but I do highly recommend them if you're a fan of that music. And again, if you're looking for like a lower budget horror movie on, one of the free streaming sites, they're the band that is perfect to listen to. Like, you got your shot on video horror movies, your ultra independent horror movies. Repulsion is the band for that type of stuff. And then there's the band simply called Ghost. Their first album is a great Halloween album, but their first one. After that, they became a little bit more pop rocky, which made them very successful, so I'd say God bless them, but I don't think they'd like that too much, even though I think it's funny, so God bless them. But that first album, especially with the way their music videos were shot, very much looking like a 70s psychedelic rock atmosphere. Like, I remember one of the comments in that video said, like a psychedelic nightmare or something like that. That's how they described the music video. And their very first album, I can listen to that on repeat this time of year because it genuinely fits that creepy aura atmosphere. And it's great. I wish they would have stuck to the 70s shock rock style. But like I said, the fact that they changed is why they're successful. Or maybe they could have still been successful even if they didn't. I don't know. We don't live in that timeline. But, Monstrous Clock, Year Zero, Secular Haze. Just the three, those are the three big ones off that album. And they're so good for this time of year. I mean, they're just good songs naturally, but they're kind of like they're like that style of shock rock. Similar to like something like Alice Cooper or things like that. It's like the 60s and 70s Hammer horror movies is what that's perfect for. Even The Crazy World of Arthur Brown. Shock rock is great, like pre-watching a Hammer style horror film. Because just recently, like I said, I watched the movie Kiss of the Vampire. And just the whole aura and atmosphere of it, even though I don't know if it actually takes place during Halloween time, is very autumn feeling. And that's ultimately what matters, is does it feel like autumn? And I mean, even like someone like Alice Cooper, I mean, he has a song called Feed My Frankenstein. So he clearly has an inspiration from classic horror. Even though Frankenstein's the doctor, not the monster, but we're gonna move on from that. Anyway, I just love music. I mean, I listen to it a lot, obviously. And even some music that I don't have the actual title for, I like to listen to during this time of year. You know, some soundtracks to horror films or horror TV shows. I was watching The Haunting of Hill House, obviously, and hearing the end title track is so atmospheric and so creepy that I actively like looked it up. Here's the thing, I can't find it anywhere, but I turned off the TV. I just had the lighting I use for watching horror films. I just had that on, and I just wanted to listen to it and just feel creeped out for a little bit because it was that good. Autumn is such a great time of year. Halloween is such a great time of year. Again, it's not just because I get to watch horror films and no one's going to judge you for it. I mean, people don't. It's 2025. No one judges you for watching horror films anymore. Horror films make blockbusters. But it's just the whole aura surrounding it. The atmosphere. The change of leaves. The smell in the air. The chill breeze. That's why I love autumn. And that's definitely why I love Halloween. Anyways, it's getting late. I gotta call it a night. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like, comment, subscribe, and, I'll catch you guys later and hopefully soon. Y'all have a good one.